of my talk is going to be the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Have you ever looked up on a clear, dark night and wondered if maybe out there somewhere there might be someone looking back at you, wondering if they're all alone in the universe, or if maybe there's life on another planet? If I can turn this on. How do you turn this on? There. Well, I think that's something almost everybody wonders. And that's why I chose this as a topic, of looking for life on other worlds and wondering if there is anyone out there. This question has been around for a very, very long time, probably thousands of years, but it was only taken seriously by scientists, about the 1970s or so, when Frank Drake came up with this really intimidating looking equation. Sort of focus on this. But it's really not quite that scary, and we're going to go through this a little bit today as we try to find out. He's basically saying that the probability of finding life, which is the number of planets n, is based on the number of new stars in our galaxy, the number that have planetary systems that can support life, those where life actually develops, the fraction of planets where intelligent life evolves, the fraction of those planets with intelligent life that have an ability and the willingness to communicate, and the average lifetime. So we're going to begin by looking at where would you start your search, because radio astronomy is not that cheap. It costs a lot of money to do SETI, so you're not just going to look randomly at all the billions of stars up there. Basically, the three types of stars that you would be looking at are stars similar to the Sun, the G, the K, and the M-class stars. And there's a few examples of those. Our Sun, of course, Capella, Arcturus, Aldebaran, Betelgeuse, Antares, and possibly Alpha Centauri C. But you'll see, kind of, if you think about dynamics and stuff, a single star is a little bit better choice because the dynamics of a system make it difficult for the planet to stay in stable orbit. You also have to look at the lifetime. The lifetime of a G or a K class star gives you billions of years. That's, at least on Earth, it takes billions of years for life to evolve. Of course, any self-respecting scientist would not base their theory on one experiment, but we only have one. We just have Earth. So what they look for, they look around those stars for stars that wobble a little bit, but they can't explain why. And that could possibly indicate that there's a planetary system. There's other things too, and if you've been following some of the discoveries, you might have seen them saying that there's a possibility that some of those stars that they thought had planets actually are just slightly variable. But that's probably our best bet. And also, you're going to want it to be single so that your star is not going to end up, your planet's not going to end up jumping back and forth through what we call the thermally habitable zone. I'll show you a picture of that. What that is, around the star, there's a certain orbit where it's not too hot and it's not too cold. It's just right, like Baby Bear says. If you are constantly whipping in and out of that zone, then maybe life will evolve while you're inside, but it'll be extinguished as soon as you leave. So intelligent life will never evolve. With our system here, Mars and Venus are right on the edge. So there is a slight possibility that at some time in their history, life might have evolved there. And with the discovery of the Ailee meteorite, that sort of looks like a possibility. But the only way to know about fossilized life, unfortunately, is you have to go to the planet, you have to dig, you have to look for fossils. That's a little bit expensive. There are a few other ways of discovering life on other worlds, but you're going to be basically looking for planets that are within that particular zone. Once you find that planet, there are certain characteristics it's going to have, planet and its star. To begin with, up here, when I'm talking about second or third generation, a first generation star is all hydrogen burning with helium. You can't make too much out of hydrogen and helium, it just doesn't work. You have to have it go supernova and a new star be formed from that with heavier elements. Our own sun is third generation, so that means there's been 2 sets of supernovas before we've been created with all of our iron and everything that we have. You need liquid for the chemistry of life. If you have everything solid, you have no mobility, so nothing could live, breathe, metabolize. If it's gas, you have no mechanical structure. And although it might be life, it probably won't communicate. It certainly won't build a radio telescope. We look at carbon-based life. That sounds sort of egocentric, I suppose, because we're carbon-based, but if you look at carbon itself, carbon, that's a terrible drawing. Carbon has the ability to join with 4 separate elements, including other carbon, so you can make these nice long chains like DNA out of it. That's not true of every element, so most likely for life, and I don't want to go into all the details of chemistry, but for life, it's probably going to be carbon, maybe silicon. You need metals. We have metals in our blood. The center of our hemoglobin is iron. I don't know if that's totally necessary, but you certainly need metal to discover electromagnetism. And without electromagnetism, you're not going to be building any kind of a radio signaling device. It's just not going to happen. So we look at water, basically, when we look for liquid. Why don't we look for ammonia or methane or anything else? I mean, there's other liquids. Why water? There's a lot of reasons, and I won't go into all of them because I need 15 minutes. But basically, if you look at this chart, and I hope it shows up, the part that I've got in purple there, that's the area where water remains liquid. The other one is hydrogen fluoride. Now, hydrogen fluoride is possible too because it remains liquid over a great temperature range, but hydrogen fluoride has a tendency to sort of split apart, become other things, where water doesn't do that. So water is probably the best bet for life. So we're going to be looking for nice water worlds. Now, if we consider that there's a good chance that there's a bunch of them out there, then we have another question to answer. Why haven't we heard anything? We look up there, there's billions of stars. We look at those slides that Terry and David showed us of the Hubble wide field, the deep space stuff. With all those galaxies, there's got to be somebody. So maybe we really are alone. Maybe life is indeed rare, and that's a possibility that we could explore. Also, we just might not be able to find it. There might be other things. Like, can we find a life that doesn't possess technology? One way to do that is to look for oxygen and methane in the atmosphere of the planet. Now, oxygen and methane do have a tendency to change into other things unless they're continually being refreshed all the time by biological processes or some strange chemistry we don't understand. But you got to be able to see the atmosphere of the planet. So if that works in our backyard, it's not too good for other planets. Another problem is that if everyone's listening, which is safe and passive, because nobody's going to hurt you if they don't know you're there and you're just listening to them, then what are you going to hear? If no one's transmitting, there's nothing to listen to. Another problem that we're going to be hearing a lot about tonight, and we heard last night about the impact on Jupiter, is the odds that one of those neat little comets has our name on it, or someone else's name on it. You don't know, none of us know how often impacts actually occur in solar systems. And there's a chance that when you get to the stage we're at right now, you've just about had it. I'm not trying to be too depressing here, but after billions of years, the odds of having a real catastrophe are great. Then there's also a problem of maybe our technology is obsolete. Maybe they're using something else. If you've ever had walkie-talkies or radios and you're signaling back and forth, it only works if the guy you're talking to has one too, and he's using the same thing you are. Then there's also the possibility that they don't want us to hear them. Back in Ohio State, they did a neat little thing called Project Cyclops, and they got this signal, but it never repeated itself. And the fellow who was working at the time wrote, "Wow," in the column. I have a copy of that somewhere. But there's a chance that they might not want us to hear. And, of course, us being the bad guys that we are, we may be a quarantine item. Perhaps they have a prime directive, or perhaps they really don't want us to come and look for them. So they're just watching us and they're more or less saying, let's just stay away from them. Maybe to let us develop, we might be an experiment in someone's laboratory, or maybe just because they're afraid. Then again, there could be the high cost of technology. The technology that we're using now for space travel is the very same technology that we could use to destroy our planet, and probably a few more if we wanted to. So you have that problem of, are we going to explore space or extinguish the race? And if the technology always goes hand in hand with military advances like ours has, then this is a good probability. And so there may have been other intelligent life forms out there, but they're gone now. For us to actually hear a signal from them, they're going to have to make a deliberate beacon, because there's no way that we would even see anything with all the random noise. Anybody who's a radio astronomer here probably knows there's an awful lot of junk out there that you can hear, and signals from Earth, military stuff, aircraft, all kinds of cosmic noise. So it's going to have to be obvious. There's a lot of frequencies. I think we saw that with the little visible light band that Dr. Irwin showed us, that the electromagnetic spectrum is huge. So where are we going to listen? We can't listen to it all. So we have to think and choose a logical frequency. But what's logic on another world? We don't know that. They're going to have to think like us. They're going to have to think logically the way we think logically, and we don't even know what their mental abilities are. So we've chosen to listen in between 1 and 10 gigahertz, and that might sound really weird, and I'm going to show you a neat diagram here. I don't want to lose people, but there is a pretty good reason for that. See, at that frequency, I'm confusing you here, at that particular frequency, well, probably going to need to see the bulb. Down here, on this one here, this shows it better between 1 and 10 gigahertz. There's this area that they call the water window, and that's because it's the natural frequency of hydrogen and of hydroxyl, and if you look at H2O, that's water. And that sort of sounds neatly gathered, the water wheel and stuff. It looks really logical, but all this other stuff here, this is cosmic noise. This is from the center of the Milky Way. Everybody in our Milky Way has that problem. Over here, we have problems from Earth's surface. This is what I was telling you, military signals and radio signals and all the other stuff. We can assume probably that they have similar things on other planets with technology. They probably have the same problem. So any noise that we hear in here is going to show up. And if you look at the top diagram, you can see if you, in the optical band, the visible light, if we just look for like a lighthouse sort of beacon, you got that tiny spike at the top there. You can hardly even see that thing. You wouldn't notice that. You wouldn't be likely to. Even if you go into the microwave, or into infrared, you are still looking at a very, very small spike. It's not that noticeable. But down here, look at that spike. You see a signal appear down there, and it repeats itself every few minutes, like maybe with the prime numbers, going through the primes. That's one way of doing it. It's a deliberate looking signal, and it's not going to be a pulsar or some other natural thing. So if we were sending a signal, that's what we do. Of course, we don't know if we want to. And then the final thing we have to deal with is if we actually make contact, what's going to happen to us on Earth? These are some things you might have seen a lot in Hollywood with various movies like Independence Day and First Contact and all the things that Hollywood's speculating on. It's not all going to be bad, but it's difficult to know what's good. We look at our own track record of people like Cortez, and like Columbus and other folks, and Alexander the Great, and we don't see really positive things happening to the people who are found. Anyway, the first thing we're going to know is that we are not alone. This is going to be very, very, very difficult on religious fundamentalists and people who think that we are a unique creation in all of the universe. They're going to have to deal with that, and I don't know what's going to happen to them. I hope that they can. We're also going to realize, and this is going to be something else that is going to be very difficult on religion, is that we will know that life can evolve naturally, chemically, from inanimate matter, and that most likely there's a lot more out there than just us and the people who we have contacted. So we're going to be opening new doors. Our belief that we're special is going to be smashed, finishing the work that Copernicus started when he said we're not the center of the universe. This is going to take us way out. It's going to make us so insignificant in the rest of the universe. If they're more technologically advanced than we are, which is a possibility, then that's going to be quite a blow to our ego because we think we're the big ones. We think we're the big boys on the block. We're sending the probes to other worlds. We're doing the exploring. All of a sudden, we're going to be the little guys. We're going to be the kindergartners, the grade 9s again, the frosh. Our world is going to shrink. And as it has already with all the new technologies we have, it's going to shrink even more when we become part of the cosmic community. When our backyard does not contain 9 planets, but contains billions of stars with other solar systems that we can't even imagine right now, it's going to make us very, very, very tiny in the scheme of things. This could possibly serve to unite humanity, because the difference between you and I, the difference between men and women, the difference between black and white, between Islam and the Jewish and the Christian and the non-religious people are going to be so insignificant compared to the difference between us and some other planet that evolved independently of us. We're going to be so similar. We're even going to be similar to the bacteria on our planet compared to them. So it could serve to unite humanity. That may be good. There'll be an exchange of knowledge, which can be good or bad. Imagine the technology that they could possess, especially if they're on an older star than we are, a second-generation star. If they've already had billions and billions of years of history, we've got thousands, by the way. We can have tremendous knowledge. We have to worry if we're ready for it. The nation that actually makes contact, and I hate to think of this, but they may monopolize that. They may not tell anybody. They may hide that. They may do all kinds of things. Tell us that they're weather balloons, that they're crash test dummies. Do all kinds of things. Not that that's ever happened. It's never happened. But they could use the technology to build things that we can't even dream of, like stealth bombers and stuff that we look at and say, wow, we don't know where that came from. We never know. For political and military gain, they may say, well, we'll tell you what's safe to them. Of course, like the board say, we may be assimilated. Have you had a look around our wonderful nation here and seen the beautiful history of the native people? You have to look hard. They've been assimilated. And what about the people in Quebec who feel like they're being assimilated? There's English all over the place. And all of the other nations, they're people who have been extinguished by conquerors. We don't know, so maybe we don't want to talk to these people. We might be exterminated. They might just want our water and our land. They may not want the contamination that's here. We don't know. That's happened before too, where entire populations of animals have been removed because they're in the way, or trees have been cut down because they're in the way. What are we? We might be plant life to them. Biologists might realize this serious situation of introducing a new species that could destroy our ecosystem. Australia had a wonderful problem with cane toads that they brought in to eat a bug that they didn't really want because they liked the local stuff better, and they couldn't get rid of the darn things. And I think they still have them today. They had problem with rabbits too. They had all kinds of trouble. We just don't know what we're doing. If we invite them here, what's going to happen? Are they going to alter our ecosystem and destroy the delicate balance here on Earth? They might bring us nice new diseases, like some of the people brought syphilis over from the New World, from the Old World as a treat to those in the New World, and wiped out populations. We don't know what kind of diseases these people have. Our diseases may kill them, like H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. That could be good. Might not be, no. We also may not be ready for the new technology that they're going to introduce to us. And if you're not ready for it, then it can do some pretty scary things to you. Imagine if you took the power of a computer back in time, 2,000 years, what you could do to history. A lot of strange things could happen. It could just be enough to destroy us, and it wouldn't be intentional at all. They might have such a mind-blowing technology that may make us feel so bad it might just destroy everything that we know, all of our culture, everything that we know. So there's always the chance that it might be better to just shut up and listen and don't say anything, and not allow them to contact us. And yes, that brings us to the end, if there are any questions.